welcome to my POA podcast, Black Hand and Beyond. This is episode 10 tonight. We come to you every Tuesday night normally. Once in a while we'll take a week off. When we come from Studio J in beautiful Enid, Oklahoma at Jackson's Auto Family, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram. Tonight we have a very special guest, going to be Tracy Sweet Keen from Florida. She's going to be joining us here in a little while. She's always one of our best contributors when we go live, and she's a historian just like me. She's very knowledgeable of POAs, and especially on this subject, it's very close to her heart, and that is Eastacre's Double Tough is our subject tonight. He was the POA that kind of revolutionized POAs. He was a small horse that was hard shipped as a POA stallion in the early 70s, and of course his blood is still very dominant today. His name became a bloodline. Double and Tough both became household names in POAs. So we also have a sponsor tonight, and it is Tracy. She knows the value of this podcast. We reach thousands of people by doing this, and it's on the history page on Facebook. So if you know somebody that loves POAs and is interested in history, and we're going to talk about other subjects too over the episodes. We don't get into politics or anything like that. We keep it all positive and on history and in modern stuff. So if you know anybody that wants to watch this live, they just have to join the POA History Group. It's been around for 10 or 11 years now on Facebook. It's a group on Facebook. You just ask to join and you become a member, and we do trivia sometimes. A lot of people post stuff. Anybody's welcome to post whatever they want at any time, about as long as it's about POAs. No for sale ads or saddles or show clothes, nothing like that, please. So we're going to get into it tonight and start talking about the stallion right there, Eastacre's Double Tough. So there's some cool stories about Double Tough, and he had a couple great owners in POAs. Both are on the Hall of Fame. So Double Tough was born in 1970, and like I say, he was an Appaloosa sire. Little Pueblo was a registered Appaloosa, and he was by Golden Chief, another registered Appaloosa. His parents were unknown because you're getting back a ways now, like in the 50s. But Little Pueblo bred an Appaloosa pony mare. Doc Nemmers went and seen her years later and said she was a roan mare, colored something like Double Tough, maybe not quite as much white. And she was a pony mare, and probably around 54 inches. So the result of that breeding was this little guy here that was about 54 inches when he grew up. Very modern in his looks. So the story goes, kind of a name that was lost in POA history. Some of the old timers might remember Joanne Rawson is her name. I never met the lady, but she was from, I believe, Thornton, Iowa, from Iowa anyway. Her claim to fame really, besides Double Tough, is she's the breeder of Paper Tiger. So in the early 70s, she was the breeder of Paper Tiger and War Bride, who Dale Baum used as the cornerstone of his famous POA operation. She also stood the Appaloosa stallion around Double Tough's early days, called War Don's Glory B. He was a well-known Appaloosa stallion, and he sired the 1973 Grand Champion mare at the Appaloosa National Show. And anyway, she's the woman that had Double Tough. I don't know if she got him from Kansas or where she got him, but that's where he was born, in Kansas. But she called the club in the national office in Mason City, and they sent inspectors to her farm in Iowa, and they inspected this then probably 3-year-old stallion, red and white, and that was who would become Eastacre's Double Tough. Well, it didn't take long, as we know, POAs is a small world, for word to spread of this little new POA stallion in Iowa. So, and he was different in looks, and his pedigree was unknown to POAs basically. So Max Nebergall from Tipton, Iowa made the trip over there, and Max, of course, is the Eastacre's gentleman, and we've talked about him before. Last week we talked about him. He just went in the Hall of Fame last year. And he probably should have been in a long time ago, but oh well, he got in. Max did have a reputation for being kind of a wheeler dealer, honestly, but he bought and sold a lot of POAs. He made money in POAs. When he got out of POAs, when it moved to Indianapolis and he decided to quit, he started raising miniature horses, and he made probably 50 times more money in miniature horses than he ever did POAs. And he bought and sold draft horses, and he was just kind of a trader, but he traded, bought and sold a lot of great POAs. He's the guy that brought Black Swan S from Sharpings to Iowa and showed her as a yearling and then sold her at the sale where the Kruger family bought her. And he's the gentleman that drove over to this town in Iowa from Tipton and took a look at much then. And Max was kind of an antique dealer too, so he traded Joanne Rawson a grandfather clock for this brand new registered POA, and he named him East Acres Double Tough. So East Acres Double Tough then went on to go to the international show in 1975, and in 75, shown by Max, he won the Grand Champion Stallion title. Well, by then he started getting a lot of claim, a lot of attention. So a lot of people were wanting to see him. Let me see. I'm having some technical difficulties. We'll figure it out pretty quick here. Got my pictures screwed up. As I mentioned, we are going to have a good guest tonight. She's already watching. Tracy Keene is watching from Florida. Trying to figure out my picture situation here. I had it all set up. I had some difficulties tonight getting going, and then I thought I had it cleared. It's all trial and error, the podcast. So. There we go. There's all the pictures we're going to show tonight. Please bear with me. Okay, there we go. We're back on, so hopefully. So like I say, he went to Colorado in 1975 and won out there. A lot of attention was placed on him because he was new to the breed, and he won the biggest title going. Back then it's still prestigious, but in 75, winning grand champion honors at the international show, which is now the Congress, was really big. And so he caught the attention of several people. The Phillipses from Ohio took notice of him. They liked him. They had Salty 3 Bars later and MP Speculator. And one of Max's good friends from Iowa, from Tipton to Dubuque, not that far away, was Julian Nemers, Dr. Julian Nemers. And this is Julian Jr. here, Julian Nemers Jr. And of course his dad, Doc Nemers, became a Hall of Fame POA breeder. And so Max kind of went to Doc and said, hey, I think somebody's going to buy this stallion and they're going to gild him. They're going to make him a kid's mount, and I don't think he should be gilded. I think he should go on. They'd already had some babies out of him. Max had bred to him right away when he got him, and he had 4 foals in 74, which we'll talk about here later. But Max was, like I say, he was a salesman and a trader besides being a good breeder and finder of horses, and he talked Doc into purchasing Double Tough. Probably one of the best things that ever happened for POA, because Doc bought him kind of for a mount for Julian. A lot of people know Julian went on to be a professional horseman. He's still in Colorado with his wife Nancy, and they show horses and help kids and stuff, and they've been big in the Appaloosas. I think he's in reining now too, and a lot of ranch stuff now, but he grew up in POAs in Iowa. And Double Tough he had other show ponies too, but Double Tough was, as you can see here, when he was a teenager, he had him. So this is at the show in Illinois in 76, and he won Grand Champion Stallion honors for the 2nd time in a row. First time owned by the Nemers. So here he is in 77. Of course, back then, I guess we still do it now, but this is a rough picture off the cover. This is the cover of the catalog. You can't get much better advertising than being on the cover of the sale that was going from 1957 on till now. So that was the 77 cover. He won again, and that was unheard of. No POA had won 3 years in a row like that. Well, then he won again in 78, and those 4 wins, 75, 6, 7, and 8 in a row, just cemented his legacy. Everybody wanted a piece of Double Tough. Everybody wanted to start breeding the Double Tough, and people started flocking from all over Texas, Michigan, Ohio, trailers. This was back before ship semen, so people were shipping their mares to Dubuque, to the Nemers, to breed to East Acres Double Tough. So they retired him from the international show after 78. So he was only shown 4 times at the national show, and he's undefeated. He won all 4 of them. He was shown in 79 and I believe a little bit in 80, but not at the national show. This is a picture of Doc here, Julian Nemers, in 1979 at the World Show, and he'd be 9 years old here, Double Tough, and look at how sleek he looks. That neck, he was known for his neck and just that horse body. Even though his mom was a pony of unknown origin, he just, he didn't look pony at all for being 54 inches. His legs were clean, his limbs, just everything about him, his neck. He did have a little bit of a horsey head, but when you seen a front-on picture of him like that, it didn't look too bad. But that was probably one of his worst features, was his head, but just his top line and his smooth body. And like I say, people started breeding to him. There's another picture of him. I believe that was maybe in Sioux Falls. So there's a picture of Julian, I believe, riding him. When he passed away, the Double Tough did, he was 87 points shy of getting his Supreme Championship. Of course, his ROM and halter came easy. He got his non-time, but then in timed, he was 187 time points away from being a Supreme Champion. Of course, he became a Premier Sire and the first Golden Premier Sire. For a long time, he was the only Golden Premier Sire in the breed. So I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit because he was born in 1970 and he had 98 registered POA foals was all he had. His foals have won 45 national titles, international show. I don't believe he ever had a Congress champion because the show switched way later after his foals were done showing. But the same show, basically, 45 titles, and that's only on 98 registered foals. So that's pretty good. I mean, the most he ever had, I think, was 15 foals in a year. And he fell ill in 1982, just at the height of his popularity. He was only 12 years old. There was a bunch of mares in Dubuque, Iowa, to be bred to him, and he was too ill to breed many in 82, so he had a small foal crop in 83. Maybe 4 or 5 registered foals were born in 83. And he had a lengthy illness, and he did pass away in November of 82. But his legacy was just starting. His sons first, and then a lot of his daughters carried his name. Like I say, you're going to see some pictures tonight of some of the horses. You're going to go, oh, wow, they're related. I have about 90 pictures tonight. I wanted to have about 110, but due to some technical difficulties, we're not going to have them all on here. So in 1974, he had 4 registered foals. This is Smokey's Double Tough. She was owned by some more great breeders that we're going to be talking about next week, the Gold Prince people. That's Dean and Jan Rogers. Thanks to Jan for sending these pictures to us. And this is a mare. I believe she's his first registered foal, was Smokey's Double Tough. And they had some Gold Prince babies by her, and some I think Essence and Gold was her 1990 baby, and she had a black colt that was really good. I think his name was Prince something. But anyway, Jan might come on here and say, but that was his first daughter. And then Fonzie, there's Jan right there. Bought for our son, was broke. Okay. This is his next baby. He had, like I say, 4 babies in 74. Double Our Trouble, that I've never heard of. I just researched all the Double Tough babies, and he was one of them. East Acres Tough to Beat, who became pretty famous. Fonzie, who became a national champion for the Neblocks in Illinois. And then, of course, Jan's mare that I just showed. So this is Tammy right here with Fonzie. Thanks to her for digging through a bunch of totes and finding pictures. And, he was in the first full crop of Double Tough, so a lot of history there. The fact that I have colored photos of his first 3 of his first 4 foals shows you how famous he became and how much of an impact he had. Some of the photos are not going to go through tonight. There's one though. Now this is in 1976. This is Julian Jr. showing Double Tough. He's on the right. That's Max Nebergall, the man that registered and named East Acres Double Tough. And then the horse he's looking at is Mitchell's Good Time POAs from California, purchased East Acres Tough to Beat, his first stallion son that wasn't gilded. He was a 1974 colt, just like Fonzie, but Fonzie was gilded. East Acres Tough to Beat went on to sire some pretty good stuff that we'll talk about here, and some things that are still going on today. You'll recognize the color a little bit when we get to it. So this is a great classic photo here. Probably should be in a museum someday. You have Max, and then Doc's son, Julian Jr., and then Mitchell's son there. I'm sorry, I forget his first name, but that's father and son, Double Tough and Tough to Beat. So here's Tough to Beat out in California. He was ridden, he was out there for a while, and then about 1980 he went to Minnesota. The Marker family bought him. They lived about 70 miles from us. They were one of the really first people we went to because they were so close. And we ended up buying a son of his, East Acres Chippewa, not through Markers, but of course through Max Nevergall. But Tough to Beat was about 52 and a half or so. He was really nice POA in the 80s. Now he sired, why in California? He sired J.W. Chisholm, who ended up being in South Dakota and with the Harms. And he sired champions for York, Bob York, and quite a few people. Gene Carr, bred to Chisholm. I don't have a picture of him tonight, but he's a little bitty snowcap stallion, red and white snowcap. And Santee Tough Texan, Santee Shoemaker, some of those famous Santees are by J.W. Chisholm, because Gene Carr realized the value of a snowcap and bred some of his solid bigger mares and ap mares to him. So this is a California offspring of Tough to Beat. This is Raylan Semi-Tough. We talked about Raylan a few episodes ago, and this is one of them right here. And I believe Tammy sent me these pictures, Tammy McMorris, I believe. And she was a pretty cool 70s POA, flaxen mane and tail. Tracy will tell us what we call that nowadays, but here she is again. Here's another Tough to Beat foal. This is Double Shot. My family bred him. He became the sire of Driftwood's Bonnie Jolene, Driftwood's Fancy Dance, and of course Driftwood's Megabucks was his offspring. He's a big fat gelding in this picture, but he was a stallion for Ray Peets for one season. So Tough to Beat's full sister is East Acres Double Treat, and she was out in California for a while. She was a beautiful mare, kind of ahead of her time. She looked a lot like Tough to Beat. You see on the bottom there how Tough to Beat got his name. Max bred East Acres Painted Lady to Hard to Beat, who was a champion race Appaloosa stallion. He was in South Dakota or the upper Midwest, and Max bred to him and got East Acres Painted Arrow. And then when he crossed Painted Arrow to Double Tough, he got Tough to Beat in 74 and this champion mare in 75. She sold for $5,000 in this catalog shot here in 1981, East Acres Double Treat. So here's Doc Nemmers when he was selling one of his early docs. I believe this is Double Take. There was Double Talk, Double Take, Double Bid. I have every name written down of every registered foal he ever had. So this is a cool picture too. Here, probably a colder day in Iowa. You see the sweaters, and we all know that sale. It's moved now, but all of us has been there a bunch, and how the weather could be unpredictable. This would have been like 79 or 80. So in 1979, one of the things that would really make Double Tough a household name was Doc Nemmers had a great foal crop. If any of us had a full crop like that right now, we would be really happy, because it's a Hall of Fame making full crop. And this colt right here, who's pictured as a yearling, believe it or not, that's a yearling picture, and this colt never went over 54 inches. This is Doc's Tough Dude. He was born in 79 in Dubuque, Iowa, on the Nemmers place, and several other colts were, including Doc's Tough Tiger. And we're going to talk to the person that helped that Supreme Doc's Tough Tiger tonight, Tracy. She's commenting right now. And you can imagine those two colts being born. They both became premier sires. Tough Dude was shown at the International in 1980 as a yearling, and he won it and went reserve grand. And then no yearling had ever went grand at that point. In 81, he went back to the International in Oklahoma. It was in New York in 80. In 81, he went to, I believe, Oklahoma City, and he won his class as a 2-year-old. He got beat out in the juniors by his half-brother, High Plains Drifter. And High Plains Drifter became the first yearling to win Grand Champion Stallion, and that was done in 1981. So then Dude went to Colorado in 1982 with Doc Nemers, and as a 3-year-old, he won Grand for the first time, but it was his third consecutive time to win the International. Then he returned in 1983 in Illinois and won. This is in Colorado here. And in 83, he won the International again and was Grand Champion Stallion again. So he repeated in 82 and 83. And so he became, just like his father, a 4-time international champion, but he was only Grand Champion twice. Here's another good picture of Doc and Doc's Tough Dude. And Doc's Tough Dude, although he was a halter horse and they never showed him in performance, he was professionally trained. My dad seen Kelly Curtis ride him from a Stallion Row one time. She took him out in the arena and was, he said, spinning circles in the ground. So, but they never did show him. That's before JPFC and stuff like that. So they used him as a stallion. Of course, with Double Tough dying in 1982, that really propelled Dude. Doc had to use him a lot quicker than he wanted to. And the story goes that Doc had to make a choice in 1979. He knew he had 2 great colts. He was a good enough horseman to know that Dude and Tough Tiger both should be stallions. So he decided to keep Dude. He always said, right or wrong, I decided to keep Dude, and he sold Tiger. And we'll be talking about Tiger's premier sire career here in a few minutes. So this is Doc's first lady, and her name's just like it seems. She's Doc's Tough Dude's first filly, and she took second at the International Futurity in 1983, I believe. Yeah, it was 1983. She was second, and I think it was 83. It might have been 82. Might have been 82, yeah. And I believe Tom Vickery is who showed her. She became a pretty good, solid show mare in the 80s. Of course, here's Levi by Out of Oz's Sweet Speculation. He was an 83 Dude offspring. He won the International just like his dad as a yearling and a 2-year-old. He never went grand, but he won his stallion class, and then he was gilded and became a Supreme Champion gelding and just a good representation of the breed. Another 83 foal that I don't have a picture of and became a phenomenal POA was Biddo Tough Cash. And Curtis has had Biddo Tough Cash. Kelly Curtis made him. She trained him all by herself out in Wisconsin, Eau Claire, Wisconsin, made him a champion, and he went on with other families and became a champion. He won national classes well into his teens, Biddo Tough Cash. I don't have a picture of him tonight. He's colored something like this, a little more white on him. Most people watching tonight will remember Biddo Tough Cash. Here's Doc Nemers at the Futurity in 1984. And this is Doc's Slick Chick. She was by the great little mare, Oklahoma's Lady Gambler. And Doc bred her to Doc's Tough Dude and produced Doc's Slick Chick. She took second in the Futurity too. Dude was kind of snake bit at the Futurity. His foals did well, but he had a hard time winning it. His dad had a reputation of winning the Futurity, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, but Slick Chick was second, just like First Lady was. So Dude was the sire of the reserve champion in 82 and 84. And Jackie Nemers, Jackie and I used to talk a lot back in the 90s and the early 2000s, and she's a great historian too, Jackie Nemers, Doc's daughter. And she talks about right before this class, they had this filly all cleaned up, and I think she flipped over backwards. And she don't look like she's too happy here in her photo, but she flipped over right before she went in, and she said she was all musty and dusty and stuff, and Doc showed her anyway, and she almost won the class. So here's another 1982 early Doc's Tough Dude foal that made a name for herself, and I had a few more pictures of her, but this is the only one that came through. This is Doc's Sugar Babe, And the Dugards from South Dakota purchased her as a yearling. I believe she topped the sale or was close. She was the international champion as a yearling in '83, and she, like I say, was by Doc's Tough Dude. And this is Stacy. Stacy Dugard showed her. I think she became a Supreme Champion. I know she's a national champion, as you can see in this picture here. She was a beautiful dark mare. She showed a lot in the 80s in South Dakota, and then they sold her to a family, and she went on and did some good things too. So here's Doc's Tough Gambler. He wasn't bred by Doc Nemers, but they borrowed the name. He became a Supreme Champion. He was a stallion down in Texas, but they used him more like a gelding. They showed him a lot. Yep, Lee, I know you remember the Dugards and Sugar Babe, because Lee Rupplinger lives close to South Dakota. So Sugar Babe would come to Minnesota a lot to show. Here's Doc's Fancy Dude. Marcy Merrill had him for a while. He's had some champions. Doc used him for a stallion for a while before he sold him to Marcy. He'd be a dude's son, probably 88, something like that. And then this is the high-selling weanling colt from 1995. This is when Junior Reams purchased him from Doc and Ruth Ann. This is Doc's Tough Mister. He sold for $12,250 and blew away the record for POAs at the time, and especially weanling colts. So my picture of Doc's Foxy Lady got lost. I wish I would have had it. I had two pictures of her. I had a picture of Jackie Nemers showing her kind of at a backdrop like this. It was after the sale. She sold for $2,100. The Reeks family bought her in 1983, and Sugar Babe won in '83 at the International, and then Ione Reeks showed Foxy Lady, and she won in '84, the yearling filly class. So dude had two fillies back to back win the yearling filly class. And I know Foxy Lady's in the Hall of Fame. I wish I had some pictures of her, but the Reeks showed her, and she became a champion mare. And then she went to, I believe, Indiana. She was in Tennessee. Just a famous mare. When we first got in POA, she was a big buzz, Doc's Foxy Lady. She won in halter, and she was a great pleasure mare as well. So now the next POA, and I'm gonna give my friend Tracy a call. So just giving you a heads up, Tracy. This is Doc's Tough Tiger, and Gene Curtis took this picture. I was just talking about Kelly Curtis. They were from Eau Claire, Wisconsin. Her mother took this picture for Tracy's family. Okay, I'm calling Florida, so let's see how this goes. Oh, I better Bluetooth it.
Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, hopefully everybody else can hear you. Let's see. I don't know if you're Bluetooth or not. Somebody out there, give me a shout out if you can hear Tracy. Tracy, say hello.
Hello.
See, I think you're on there. Well, we'll start talking anyway. Lee, somebody out there that's watching, please let me know if you can hear Tracy all right. So Tracy, are you watching the feed?
Yeah, I'm on my computer.
Okay. I can barely hear you, Tracy.
Can you?
Yeah.
Maybe I need to step outside. It might be echoing. You know what? I'm going to start the volume thing on.
Because I got the Bluetooth slammed up. I need you on the Double Tough episodes. So. Well, I can hear you. Hopefully people can hear you. Yeah, it's okay. We'll see. We'll see what people say. But okay. You forgot your notes? Well, go back and get your notes. Jan Rogers is commenting. Let's see what Jan says. I got to pull the screen over and see. Jan says no, she can't hear you. Can't hear her. We can't hear you, Tracy. Let me call you back, okay? We were practicing, everybody. Okay, hang up. I'm going to call you right back. Okay. Live TV, you know, that's why they quit it and they went to recording. So that's why we're trying something here. We might have just had a bad connection, so let's try it now. Here we go. Oklahoma calling Florida. I don't think it's Bluetooth. Can you hear me now?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but it's not very good. It's.
Okay. I don't know what to do. I'm like,
I'm hearing you in the headphones, but just a minute here. Let me see. I have my phone. Don't use speakerphone. Yeah, I'm not on speakerphone.
I'm not on speaker.
You're not on speakerphone. Good. We're Bluetooth, so. Huh. See, I can hear every word you're saying, but it's not loud and crisp like the other people that I've talked to on here. So. No, it might be on my end, Tracy. I don't know.
I'm outside now.
Well, anyway, we might have to redo Double Tough because he's probably a 2 episode guy anyway. So, but
Probably so.
have you been enjoying the show so far?
Absolutely.
Good.
It's
Well,
like my all-time favorite.
I know he is, and I'm on probably your favorite ever right here, the stallion you rode as a kid. So, and
My folks, when we were out living in Washington State, they wanted, I don't know what made us decide to move to breeding, because my mother raised Morgans, and we'd gotten out of that. We had some couple ponies, and we'd gotten into ponies, the POAs, and we had quite a few mares cared for. And I don't know what possessed her, but all of a sudden she decided she wanted a stallion.
right,
She did the research, and she decided she wanted a double tough son. And lo and behold, Tiger came up to the sale the year Double Tough was sick, which was amazing.
right,
We didn't know he was sick when we bought him, but he was at the sale, and we got there and they had to buy director out west at the time, full bid on him. And I think the limit was 3,500. And I remember I picked up the phone very calm, and she said, "I got some good news and bad news." And I said, "Let me have the good news." She said, "The good news is you bought a stallion. The bad news, I paid more for him than I was supposed to." So I think we paid 3,700 for a 3-year-old stallion. We
right,
went home that winter and went to work, started riding him, and he was a little quirky. He had some stuff going on, he always did. And out there they had Western pleasure stallion classes, which there would be 6 or 7 of us out there riding stallions, and you could watch his ears. The
okay.
ears started to swivel, you were going to be airborne.
Uh-oh. Hey, Tracy, we got you live now. It was a while, but somebody say if you can hear. But I was hearing what you're saying, but I know they barely could hear. But I got you live now, so
Okay.
good. I can hear you in the right ear set, but I'm pretty sure people can hear you. Yeah, we can
Okay.
hear. We can hear you now. So okay. So I'll just say it quick because I talk a little faster than you. So she was just saying about when they bought him at the sale in 1982 and basically how much they paid for him. And you didn't miss too much, but it was the story of how they found him. And now she's kind of moving on to when she'd ride him and stuff. But you were kind of saying when you guys bought him, you didn't realize Double Tough was sick because I mean that's something
No.
they didn't really advertise. And here your family got an own son and a loud colored leopard. Double Tough wasn't really known to throw colts like this. That color kind of came from the other side of the family.
Yeah.
But you ended up with, a pretty unique stallion here.
Yeah, and it wasn't, I think it might have been the December issue that year, or maybe the January issue when we found out Double Tough had died. 'Cause
Right.
out west there, we didn't have, the social media we
This
have
wasn't
now.
social media. Yeah, you didn't have Facebook. You had carrier pigeons
Yeah,
back then.
yeah, it
So-
was the magazine was the news,
Right.
and
Well, I
we were
remember
like,
the
wow.
March. I didn't know he'd passed away, and we just got in it in '82, and I already fell for Dude and Tiger and Built Tough, all these colts I seen in the magazines, And
Yep.
here comes the March. I think it was March '83, and that was the memorial issue for Double Tough.
Yes, yes. And
know.
that's when we found out he died.
Right.
And I was I aged out in 85. So we
Okay.
had him, we rode him in 83, 84, and 85. And the goal was, not west, it's really hard
Right.
at that time.
my goal was to supreme him, and we got that done. And he was very athletic. He was not happy going around in circles. He liked jumping, he liked the reining, he loved the speed events. And like I said, if he had to ride in there with other studs, he was not a happy boy.
Okay.
And but he was quirky. He could. There were times he dumped me one time out on the trail, and I came to with my reins still in the hand, and I was in front of him, and he was backing up.
Oh yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, I learned to wear helmets back then.
Right. Well, see, that's safety. You're on the cutting edge, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was a lot of fun because we eventually sent him to Dick Shrake for reining training in Oregon,
Okay.
and that was his thing that he really liked.
Right. Well, he was pretty powerful, wasn't he, for his height? I mean, how tall was
he
Tiger? 53 or?
He was about, well, there were days when he was a hard measure at 54, but when
Okay.
it was all said and done, he was probably 53 and a half
Right.
once he finally matured.
Right.
And we sent him, when we got to Florida, we ended up sending him out to Jack Henning for reining training as well.
Okay.
But that was his thing. He liked doing that. And Katie rode him at the 92 Congress, I think. It was in Oklahoma City.
Okay.
And reining. She went out and did freestyle, did one too many spins, so that kind of went out the window real quick. And they were second in senior reining and fourth, I think, in 13 to 18 reining. But
Okay.
his thing was, we when we moved to Florida, we got a bunch of mares. And I was reading today on in your book about what Doc Nemers had done, and we had basically done the same thing. We bought 4 double tough daughters.
Right.
Foxy Acres double ditto that was she'd had a Congress champion, grand champion colt. We bought Tough Sorrel Sunday, who had never had a foal. She was 12 years old, and
Right.
Marlene was
High Plains
never able to
Drifters,
get it.
full sister.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
she was never able to get her bred. Well, we got her bred. We had one foal by Tiger out of her and went, that's not a good cross. So we crossed her on an impressive stallion, and then we sold her back, ironically, to Marlene.
And that was that
sale.
red colt she had, wasn't it? That
Yeah,
good colt.
and she
Yeah.
late entered him in the select sire futurity, and he was second.
Yep. I remember him.
And then we bought. Early on we bought East Acres Miss Tuffet when we were still out west,
Okay.
and we rode and supremed her, and we kept her, well, because she was in her 20s, and she's probably the one that of that cross with Tiger that was the most successful, because I still have a mare in my program now that's related to her.
Okay.
And then we bought Kate's Tough Rexy from the Reichs in Iowa that Katie supremed, and then she ended up with the Stanleys. We never went to a lot of congresses or internationals. We out west we went to the world shows and that kind of thing. And Tiger
Right.
was a world champion in halter, and he did good for us.
Right.
He became a premier sire.
Right. Well, I
And,
failed to mention, I mentioned the story that Doc he wrote about that he decided to keep Dude and he sold Tiger, and then a great POA person, Owen Ziegler, bought him. But Tiger was second as a yearling to Dude. They were first and second in New York at the international show. So, and then go ahead.
The year after we bought Tiger, Olin had a weanling that won the select sire that was called the Baron, and he was by Tiger out of Oklahoma Lady Gambler.
By the hired girl.
Or the higher girl. I'm sorry, you're right.
That's him
Yep.
right there. I got a picture of him right now. I know you don't like that picture, but it shows his
I
body.
can't see it.
That's fine. So right now we're looking at Tiger. I think about the time he sold him, Olin's shown him, and then we got a picture of hired girl. It's a cluster. It's a collage, and then down below is right before they went in the ring with the Baron.
Yep, I see it.
Yeah.
I
So
stepped in the house.
yeah.
Can you still hear me?
I can hear you good. It was my end, Tracy, not yours. So I had you doing acrobats down there, but it was the Bluetooth wasn't quite working right. So I've had a tough night tonight, but we got going, and I apologize everybody for the difficulties. But hopefully the history outweighs the technology flaws. So okay, we're gonna flip on. Here's WFF's Heaven Help Us, and
That was a Tiger daughter.
yeah, and she was out of Oklahoma's Lady Gambler.
There you go.
Yep.
They were high-selling mare and foal.
Yep. Well, because Double Tough was sick, Doc bought her because he started collecting anything to do with Double Tough, basically. So he bought her as a baby. And I know she had some issues on their place, but they used her in their breeding program for
I
quite a
think
while.
she's in one of the pedigrees of mine.
Yeah, I think she probably is. So, and her
But
mother was a cool little mare, Lady Gambler. But, and then here's somebody asked me the other night if their baby Executive Action would be on one of the
oh
things,
yes,
and they didn't even know
funny.
about Double Tough, and I said, yeah, he'll be coming up in Double Tough. So,
He was a quarter Arab.
was he really? Okay.
Hmm.
Well, his croup looks, now that you tell me that, I can see a little bit, but
Yeah,
he had a lot of white on him.
yes, he did.
And a lot
But
of
it was
chrome.
all legal.
Oh,
We
yeah.
didn't have to geld them, but we did anyway.
You did anyway.
And
So
then,
where did the name Executive Action come in?
I have absolutely no idea.
Come on,
It was
Tracy.
something my mother
Thousands of
came
people
up
are
with.
watching tonight. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
No, I have absolutely no idea. My
Okay.
mother just came up with that one.
He
It had
went
to be
on to be
misspelled.
ridden by a lot. Yeah, it had to be misspelled to
Tracy
fit.
Porter had him.
Yeah, and then the Kozers had
Leslie
him.
Raw from Maryland had him, and then she sold him to Troy.
Okay, and Troy did
Kozer.
well on him. I remember
Yes,
Troy riding.
that's where he came to into his own, and then
Right.
Shada Phelps
Okay.
had him when he died. They kept him his whole life.
Okay. That's who probably contacted me. Yeah.
Probably they called him Skippy.
Skippy. Okay. Here you are, and I won't say the year. Okay, I will. 1989, showing TC Ought to Be Tough. You won the futurity. So that became Doc
Interesting.
Stuffed Tiger's second futurity winner.
Yes, interesting story on that one is we had two colts, and I picked a different colt to show,
Yeah.
and that was the first time they ever split the class. And they pulled that colt out of their selection to come back, and the colt I was leading wasn't, so I snatched him away from my sister.
Mean sister, Katie.
Well, she's 10
a
years
mean.
younger than me, so at the time in '89,
Well, it made
she was,
sense. Yeah, she
she
would
was
have been
like,
really
what,
little
13?
there. Yeah,
she was 13.
you're
she got
a
him
teenager still in that picture, ain't you? Or about 20? Yeah, you're
about 23.
about 23. Okay, see, I was just giving you a
Almost 23,
compliment.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not. I can't see it now. I've lost my feed on my regular computer,
Okay.
but
Well, and I don't think
but I
this
know-
was taken at the futurity. It might have been. He looks younger here. This looks like it was taken at a regional or something. It could have been, but he looks younger. But okay, now here I know this is one of your favorites. I think Tiger's Legacy.
oh yes,
Yeah.
that one was one of our. That was our first foal crop,
Okay.
and yeah, we kept him till he was 4, and he was my favorite because he was black and white, and he was easy, and he went on to be a Congress champion, Western Pleasure champion as well with the Gerses from Texas.
Okay.
They bought him at the sale from us, and Jamie rode him, and then he ended up in Michigan, and I can't remember who had him in Michigan, but they rode him. He was like a 9 and under,
Right.
or 8 and under, 9 to 12.
He looked
pony.
like a nice bill. I remember him too at the shows for sure.
He was fancy,
Yeah.
fancy.
So.
And then there was I don't know if you have a picture of her. There was PC Double Delight.
I don't have her. That's all the ones I have of yours right now. So
Okay.
I can't get them
Well,
all in. I had 110 and
know,
only
I
90
understand.
came over. So
But PC Double Delight was the third one that got him his premier sire.
Okay.
And we sold that mare. We sold her twice. She kept coming back. And the last time she came back, she was 17 and blind. And the people that had her up in Pennsylvania said they were going to put her down because she wouldn't stand for a stallion.
okay.
And so I contacted Kay Schwink, who lives in Virginia, and I said, "Can you help me out here? Because she's the eye person."
Right.
And she says, "I'll take her." And I said, and she had St. Nick's snowstorm at the time, and I said, "Can you breed her to him in the spring, and I'll come get her." And she said, "Yes." Well, then snowstorm died. So
Oh no.
I went and picked her up in June. I brought her back the next year. Bred her to my quarter horse twice. Got 2 colored foals. This is when we didn't know what we know now.
All right.
But we know now that she was homozygous.
Right.
And then I ended up breeding her. She had her last foal at 24, which is, she's still here in my barn. And her name is, well, she's the first one. And then
Okay.
I had another one that's was Double Down. What was his name? Doubles on the House.
Doubles on the house. Okay.
And Lisa Aston rode him at the Congress and did real well with him. And then we sold him in the sale. But the filly that she had, I sold her again, just like her mother. She come back, all starved and
Oh no.
emaciated.
Yeah.
And I had Speaker of the House at that time, so I bred her to Speaker,
Right.
and I got the mayor that I have now. She's Vice Speaker
Okay.
out of the TC Double Delight Mayor,
Okay.
and she's in my program today. She
So
will
that's
never
three.
leave.
That's a lot of generations of your program there. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's cool.
so she won't leave. We'll keep her.
Right. Oh, good.
And but I was just looking at some pedigrees today. I don't know if you want to talk about this, but I was looking at pedigrees today, and I was looking at my pedigrees in my own program.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you, I don't specifically look for double tough, and as much
Right.
as I used to with Jake, but I have, well, my Unspeakable Delight goes back 4 times to double tough. My Sweetly Zip Mare goes back 2 times. And, of course, Doc's Big Time Sweetie, she goes back 4 times.
Right.
But the one I bought from Jess Driss last spring, that's a weanling,
Right.
she goes back 5 times.
Wow. Is that I've got superpowers or what's her name?
I've got girl powers.
I got girl powers. Yeah. She's.
I've got superpowers.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then this is I'm probably getting way off track here.
That's
You're
all
gonna go
right.
shut up, lady. But we bred Doc's Big Time Sweetie this year to RY Sudden Equity.
Okay.
Did you know he goes back to East Acres Double Tough 5 times?
RY Sudden Equity.
Yes.
I'd have to see where it's at.
Well, I looked today. He goes back 5 times.
Okay.
So this foal that's coming is going to go back 9 times
Wow.
to East Acres Double Tough.
Wow, you're getting like Wheeze Camp here.
I'm trying not to be long-winded, but yeah,
Oh,
I
that's
was
fine.
like, wow.
That's fine.
But we
yeah,
did
I'm
find
still on
out early
79
on.
Colts. I'm not even in the 80s yet on double tough. So
I'm sorry.
No, that's all
Move
right.
on.
That's why I got you on here. So.
And I will also mention that there was a mare that won a speed event at the Congress this year. That's a hardship mare. The papers got lost,
Okay.
and she is from Utah. And believe it or not, she is actually a Tiger granddaughter.
Really. Okay.
They were unable to get her papers, but she's a Tiger granddaughter. Her name is August Morning.
August Morning. I remember that name. Yep. Looking at the
Yep.
show results. Yep. Fast.
Yep.
Fast mare. That's the problem with POAs. They change so much, and then like anything in horses, if you get people will get rid of them or dump them, and then they change, and when people go to register them, they hardship them, which the hardship clause has its purpose, but then sometimes you lose the history, because
Yeah.
I know a lot of these that are running around were bred to be POAs. They definitely
I know.
were. If there's a 50-inch blanketed horse a pony that's doing well in the show ring and it's hardship, it was probably bred to be a POA. For sure it was. So there's not that many accidents that are happening, but especially with the '08 bubble, that took out a lot of pedigrees. So it's good
Yeah.
that people keep track of stuff, and it's just someday we might be. Again, I don't want to get too political or anything, but someday we might be able to do something where we can track them better. I know it's expensive, but just trace them somehow with microchips or whatever. You know what I mean? We're doing a good
No,
job with DNA, so.
We've caught a couple actually that came in through the office. They were stallions that had been DNA'd
Right.
and then got gelded, and they
Okay.
lost their papers, and they sent them in because they have to have that HYPP test
Right.
through UC Davis, which is who does the stallion
genetic.
DNA.
Right.
And Vicky's caught, I think, 1 or 2 that came in for hardship. And UC Davis said, "Well, wait a minute."
This is on file. Yeah, and that way
Yeah.
we could save all that heritage and all that pedigree, and then they didn't have to take up another number. They already had a registered number, so they might have been tentative,
Unfortunately,
but
we don't do that with our mayors, and I don't know how I feel about that. So it's political, so I'm going to get out of that one. But
I will
you know.
mention that you are a national director, so we're not going to get into political stuff. I'm a past national director. I was 2 terms. You're on your first term, I believe.
no, I'm on my second.
You're on your second? Oh, wow, you won 2 elections already.
Time flies. when you're
Time
having-
flies. Well, you were in Ken Steele's neighborhood for all those years. He was on the board for about 50 years. So,
And then Sheila Bennett.
and Sheila
after
Bennett
him.
was on for a while. Yep. So I'm glad you're on there representing breeders. But I am going to move on a little bit. You can stay on the phone though. You know all these POAs. I wish you could see it in real time, but I'm on.
I'm going to try to pull it back up on my computer,
Okay.
but I'll sit here and listen.
Okay, well now we're moving into the 80s, and this is High Plains Drifter. And one of the things, like I said earlier, that made Double Tough such a household name is his sons at first, which was East Acres Tough to Beat, and then Doc's Tough Dude, Doc's Tough Tiger, High Plains Drifter, JBJ's Totally Tough, that Jackie Blazer back then, Jackie Guthrie now, promoted. He was actually bred by Doc Nemers, but she bought Tika's Miss Silhouette in full and fold out the few spot Totally Tough. But they all became national champions at a young age, either babies or yearlings, most of them yearlings, and so a couple of them went grand. This is a history picture right here. I'll put POA history on there. There we go. Because this is Mark Borjan showing his family's yearling Double Tough son. He was out of SS Katy. Tracy, who's on the phone with us, her family owned his full sister, Tough Sorrel Sunday. She was always one of my favorite mares in pictures. I never got to see her in person. But,
Can I interject?
Yep, interject. You don't have to have permission.
Okay, she did have a foal with Takapa foal.
Okay. Yep.
And Takapa Tough, up until recently, has been standing in Ohio. I don't know if he's still alive.
He was
but
a
I know
leopard
that
stallion, right?
Yes, he was. And I think a daughter of his won the medium mare class last year at the
She
conference.
did, I think, bred by Karen Bent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And who's David? Who's the man that owned Takapa Tough? What's his last name? David.
I think Karen had him. In the
Well,
end.
she does now. Yeah, or she did, but he had him for years. I can't. Was it Scarlet?
David, I can't remember his
David
name.
Scarlet? I may be
Yeah,
wrong.
that sounds right. That sounds right.
We're getting old, Tracy. Sorry, but we
I
are.
know.
And life just gets in the way. If I didn't have to work a job and I could just sit at home and read my POA stuff, like I did as a kid. But anyway, Drifter here was the grand champion stallion as a yearling. He was the first one to do that. Many have done it now. Now with the long necks and stuff and the skinny necks, it's easier for a yearling to win sometimes. We even had a weanling win. Jan said yes, Dave Scarlett, Jan Rogers said. So, but High Plains Drifter, he won. He was reserve grand in '83 and '84, but as a yearling in '81, he was grand. And he went out. He bred the famous hardship mare Cricket McHugh, who was a grand champion mare in '81. So they bred the grand champion stallion to the grand champion mare, and the result was that filly right there, Wayne Latch is holding with the big plaque, and that is QT McHugh, and she won the Futurity in '84. So we're going to get to the pictures. The Select Sire Futurity started, and you can interject anytime, Tracy, but it became a big, wonderful thing for the POAs. But POAs started in '54, and in '82, the Select Sire Futurity started. So POAs had been around a long time, and when it started, but it became a huge success. Well, Double Tough was almost gone when the first Futurity class was held. I mean, he'd die a month later, not to be too dramatic, but and the first filly was his filly that won. The American Dream won, and then in '83, Doc's Miss Firefly won, another Double Tough daughter, and he was already passed away. So the first two Select Sire Futurity winners were by Double Tough, and then this filly here won the third Futurity in '84, and this is Cutie McHugh again. So, and then her full brother, this is Jackie again. Now I got to mention Jackie Guthrie. Of course, she's one of my mentors, was a very close friend of mine while I was in POAs. She's a big Double Tough supporter. So,
and there's no better person in the breed, in my opinion.
Well,
she
yeah,
did a lot for me.
She's done a lot for me too. She
I
was
wouldn't
kind of
have
my
my
show
good mare,
mom.
my good Stella mare, or JBJ's Touch Lucky, if it wasn't
Right.
for Jackie.
And that mare's got a great pedigree too.
Before she was even born.
Right. Well, she goes back to some of your stuff, and she crosses great with Jake. So, but anyway, this is Mr. McHugh, and he was a colt. He was a full brother to Cutie McHugh. So he's a High Plains Drifter son, a grandson of Double Tough. Jackie showed him to Grand Champion Gilding in, I believe, '89. This picture's from '88, and his son JBJ's Double Trouble was a reserve grand the year he was grand. So he was a stallion for a little while because he was a snowcap, but then he was gilded and won grand. So,
Get out.
so just now here's another. This would be Doc's Tough Dude's full brother. This is Doc's Built Tough. Now I just seen a picture on Quarter Horse History, Tracy, the other night, and I should have shared it on here, but it was a picture of J.B. King, and Doc bred to a son of J.B. King named Puffman in the mid 70s. A lot of people don't realize
Doc Smith Puff.
Doc Smith Puff, that's right. You know, Doc got into POAs for his kids. He had a whole bunch of kids, and they showed POAs. They were quite successful. They had 7M's Warriors Bonnet and Joe Bar and a lot of great POAs before Double Tough, of course. And then he was breeding too. He bred to Ladies Warrior. You know, I mean, Warriors Pat Pending, I believe, is bred by Doc Demers. And he bred for some POAs before he got Double Tough. But after he got Double Tough, it really got going. But in 75, Lammer's Whiskey foaled out Doc Smith's Puff. And she was a long-necked, beautiful, solid bay mare. And her first foal, which is going to come close to you now, her first foal was born in 78. My family purchased her. That's Doc's Double Sweet. And that mare,
Yep.
we're going to see a lot about her, but she ended up being the mother of a lot of great ones, including the Crisco Kid that my family raised, and then his full sister, who's probably one of the best brood mares ever, and that's Doc's, what's her name? Help me out, Sweetie.
Oh, Big Time Sweetie?
No, Big Time Sweetie's mother.
Oh, Double Sweet?
Doc's double, well, let's see.
Hang on, I'm going to have to go look
Kids
at
Double
paper.
Sweet. Kids Double Sweet.
Kids Double Sweet,
Yeah.
that's it.
We're not looking at papers, people. We're just talking. But Kids Double Sweet.
I have my book here.
Oh, well, I don't have. I've got my book over here. Kids Double Sweet was the full sister to the Crisco Kid, and was by Kiddo Tough and out of Doc's Double Sweet. I remember. Here's a quick story. Now, nothing against Tiger, but here's a quick story that goes back to Tiger and stuff. Doc came up to our place and bought a few spot colt in 1985. And he traded a mare. My dad wanted a Doc's Tough Dude filly. He always loved dudes. So the next fall, we drive down to Dubuque, and Doc had a football game or something he had to attend, so he wasn't there at first. And Jackie was there, his daughter. And she shows us a pin of yearlings, and there was a Tiger daughter in there, and there was some dude daughters. And, of course, they weren't ready to show or anything. They were just, you know, farm fresh. But my dad's like, well, I think I'm just gonna wait. You know, my dad was a pretty good horseman, and he's just like, I don't want to hurt your feelings, you know. But I don't. Well, here come Doc. Then he showed up. Of course, we became great friends with Doc. I admire the man a lot, what he did for POAs. Well, here I am, like a 13-year-old kid, and I had my nose in the catalogs all the time. I knew who Doc's Double Sweet was just by her picture, and I told Dad, ask about that one. Ask about that one. And Dad goes, who's that? And Doc goes, well, that's one of my best mares. That's Double Sweet. And he's like, well, I really like her. I want her. And we ended up, Doc, I think he said, he mentioned George Bishop, another great POA. He said, well, if I don't get a little money to boot, you know, I don't feel like I won. George Bishop taught me you always got to get money to boot. Of course, George didn't need the money, you know. But so I don't know what we gave to kick in with it, but it wasn't too much. But we traded a weanling colt, a full brother to the Tough Dots, for Double Sweet, and the rest is history. You know, by us getting Double Sweet from Doc that day, that produced the Crisco Kid, the winningest gelding ever at the national show. And then Kid's Double Sweet was born the next year, bred by us, and she became the mother of several champions, and then of course the Silver Kid. So, and then the mare you have now, Doc's Big Time Sweetie.
Oh, was I lucky to get her.
And I told you to get her. Remember, I told you that you needed that mare. So I wish you would have got her 10 years ago. But
I should have, but she was a long ways away and a lot of money and a lot of shipping. But when she landed in Georgia and popped up for sale, Jess goes, if you don't get her, I'm getting her. And I said, I've already bought her.
Right. Well, if I got into POAs today, I would have looked for her. That would have been one of the first things I would have did. I would have called the office and said, where's Doc's Big Time Sweetie?
Because she wasn't bred.
Right. Well, that's always an issue. Yeah.
16, and I'm like, I bought her for next to nothing. I will say, as far as good broodmares go,
right.
I didn't pay much for her, but
right.
I ran up there and all the way to Georgia in the middle of a storm and snatched that mare up and brought her home.
That's good.
And I bred her early.
Yeah.
Bred her early because I thought, if we're going to have troubles, I want to know now. And
Right.
she settled right away.
Good.
And the Lindsay Zom bought her filly that she had this year by Jake, and we've got her bred now to our wife's sudden equity. So.
Okay, and that's going to be the 9
better
times
be
the
a
double. Yeah.
It better be a filly.
Better be a
9
filly.
times
9
back to
times.
double tough.
Okay, well, getting back to the double tough Doc Smith Puff, that's fine, Cross, so we don't confuse people too much. So, because I get going sometimes and I lose the audience. I need a chalkboard. So in '78, Doc's Double Sweet was born, and she was solid, but she ended up the mother too. You're going to see pictures of them, but Doc's Bold Prince, Doc's Just As Tough, that sold for $3,000. Then of course the Crisco Kid. She had some others too. She had Doc's Tough Sweetie that was, I think, born solid. She was out of a few spots. She ended up Herb Freetag ended up having her, and Kennedy's ended up getting a filly out of her and Kiddo Tough that became pretty well known. So, I mean, it just went on, and that was just the first foal. Well, then Doc's Tough Dude was second in '79. They had a solid stud colt in '80, and Doc said he just got rid of him. Back then they didn't. He already had Dude. So then in '81, the one we're looking at, Built Tough, Koraleski's purchased him for, I believe, $3,000 at the sale. He won the international show as a baby. Yep, and then he was gelded. See, again, we didn't know what we know now, and then you have people not getting negative or anything, but people pushing. He threw some with excessive white, and the pressure was on to gild him. And, and he was a big colt too, but when it changed to 56, he fit right in. So he went on to be a Supreme Champion gelding, and he's the full brother. Well, then in '82, Doc's Wipeout was born. I always wanted to get her. Marcy,
me too.
Marcy
Me
ended
too.
up with her because I love chrome. Well, Wipeout had the chrome too. It's kind of funny. Double Sweet, when crossed to Chippewa, she had 2 blankets with little blankets, one bay and one chestnut. And Chippewa was a bay leopard. Well, then when bred to Kiddo, she had 2 leopards. Bred to Snowstorm, she usually had leopards. So, and then Dude would throw chrome once in a while. Some of his offspring would throw chrome, but Dude didn't too much. But Wipeout and Built Tough were chromy, and they threw some chrome. So anyway, now we're caught up on the Double Tough Doc Smith Puff cross, and that was Doc breeding to Puff Man, way back in '74, getting a 75. I had somebody tell me one time, well, how good a breeding is it if you keep getting solids? I'm like, just think of the horses that wouldn't exist. If Doc Smith's Puff wouldn't have been kept, retained by Doc, and then Doc's Double Sweet, we wouldn't have some of the champions we have today. So the solids are very important.
My Jake.
You're Jake, as you know. So, and my dad always said, why are people afraid to keep a solid POA stallion? You spend a lot of money to breed to a quarter horse, or you use a quarter horse mare. So
the day Jake was born, I cried.
Right?
Because I wanted a solid filly at the time.
And you got a solid stud. And he's probably been the best thing that happened to you. I mean,
Ever happened to me? No.
I do.
No,
I think that. So, okay, so now we have, here's Built Tough as a baby, and then here's one of his babies. This is Double Deck. Double Deck was bred by the Lewis family. This is Leonard Lewis. A futurity was named in his honor. Of course, people know. Double Deck won. She still is the only POA in history to win the international show as the first 4 years of her life, basically. As a baby, yearling, 2-year-old, and 3-year-old. And then the Neblock showed her and won stuff with her, and she ended up going to Spencer's. I know she was in Oklahoma with Spencer's. So, and then this is KK's Rio Tough. She won as a baby. She won a lot of stuff. She didn't win the international show out in Ohio, and she didn't win the futurity, but she placed well enough. And then as a yearling, she wiped out the class. I mean, she was just a really nice filly.
She was phenomenal.
Phenomenal. And she's the cross between Gold Prince, which is next week, and Double Tough. I'm going to have to rest my voice because talking all night about Double Tough, and then next week, Jan and I will be chatting it up. So I don't know if Jan knows that yet, but right now I'm going to say a little bit of history here. So bear with me here, Tracy, while we got these two on, because these two fillies both won as yearlings. So one of the things that made Double Tough so popular after all his studs that were winning stallions and they became great sires was his grand git started winning stuff. And here's from 1983 to 1989, the yearling filly winner at the international show was a granddaughter of Double Tough. So
That's amazing.
That's amazing. Yep. So in 1983, Doc's Sugar Babe, which we seen a picture of her, she won. And then in 1984, Doc's Foxy Lady, who both of those mares became tough Western Pleasure mares, she won. So they're both by Doc's Tough Dude. In 85, Double Deck, who we just seen, won by Built Tough. 86, KK's Rio Tough, who we're looking at now, won. In 87, WRE Hot to Trot, bred by the Jones from Wisconsin at the time. Then later they went to Georgia. But Katie, Dottie, Matt Jones, Doc Jones from Wisconsin, they were a well-known POA family. Their super son daughter was out of Doc's Tough Cookies' full sister, Tough Sugar and Spice. So that was that nice Bay filly, WRE Hot to Trot. In 80,
Yeah, she's fancy.
she was fancy. Yep. She almost won the Futurity that year as a baby. In 88, a filly that did win the Futurity, the junior class, KS's Kinda Classy, was a daughter of the American Dream, and she won in 88. And then to round this out is in 1989, Doc's Baby by Doc's Tough Dude. She won. So yeah, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years in a row. And then in 78, Doc's Double Date won the yearling filly. She was a Double Tough daughter. So you take from 83 to 89, that's domination. You know what I mean? And that's why the Double Tough line, Gold Prince too, but Double Tough just kind of took over for a while. And so now we're going to move on, Tracy, to a full brother to your stallion that you had, and this is JBJ's Totally Tough.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Sharon Fallons took this picture for Jackie Guthrie, and
That's probably the best picture of him ever.
Yeah, he was, he didn't get his due as a sire. Jackie promoted him a lot, but Jackie was into the straw ponies and stuff, and she bred some straw mares to him. He might have needed a little bigger, coarser mare, and I think the height change hurt him a little bit. Of course, he died at a pretty young age, but I always thought he was a pretty nice stallion, and I liked his color genetics because he was, again, the Lannon Series Super Spot and stuff on the bottom side, that produces some great colors. And then you had Double Tough, of course, but here's when he won. He did win at the International Show. This is Jackie at the 84 International. He would have been a 3-year-old here. And he ended up having some good POAs. JBJ's Totally Macho won. Totally Sweet was in Oklahoma, I believe, for a while. She was all over, but Totally Sweet won.
Yes, she won everything.
And one of the things that's pretty cool, me in statistics, that's where I'm really a nerd in statistics, and I've kept those lists up for almost 30 years now, the leading sires list. But you notice breeding will tell, and Totally Tough and Tiger went two completely different directions. They were full brothers, and one was a leopard and one was a few spot, and one went to Wisconsin, born in Wisconsin. The other one went to Ohio, and then with you to Washington and then Florida. But when you look at their siring records, they both became performance sires, not as much in halter at the International, and their numbers are almost identical, like 14 or 15 wins, and all in performance. And they're full, so that tells you, breeding tells. It doesn't matter what part of the country they were in or who had them, so. And that's Jackie again, showing him there in 84. So here's a picture. I'm going to test your knowledge. Putting you on the spot. Are you watching?
I am.
Here I'm going to give a stallion, Winnie. That's your hint there. This is a POA stallion. Who is this?
I'm a lag. I have nothing still. I'm still looking at Jackie.
That's fine. We can look at Jackie. I'm not looking at Jackie right now, but.
Oh, there we go. Who is that?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Of course, it's a Double Tough relative. He's a grandson of Double Tough. He became known because of two of his foals, basically. You want me to give you more clues? His owner, he was bred by Doc Nemers. Doc sold his mother in the sale. This gentleman bought him and foaled him out.
This is Double Dash of Class.
There you go, Double Dash of Class. And Paul Shanks, I was going to say his owner was a director, and he became, what his claim to fame is, he sired 2 Futurity winners in a row. So, and he had one of the longest necks in the breed. But if I could put my hand up in front of the screen there, from the shoulder, the back of the shoulder up, doesn't that look like Double Tough?
Yes,
That
it
looks
does.
like double tough. I was looking
Yeah.
at that the other day. Now his hip isn't quite. I think there's some Arab in him. I'm pretty sure there was some Skipper W breeding and some Arab in that mare that they bought back. It was a double tough daughter, and Nemers bought her. They weren't the breeders of her, but then they bred her to Dude and sold the mare. Skipper's Tough Lady was her name.
Yeah.
And yeah, and got
That was
double
about the
dash.
time I think that Doc Nemers figured out the direct close line breeding didn't work, as we
Right.
found out as well.
Right,
About
and I
the
wrote
same
about
time.
that in the book. Some people said, "Oh, you're being negative," but you know when he
I know
started,
it's not negative.
Yeah.
I found that
Right.
later it's better to cross Granget.
Because when he was breeding
that,
Dude to Doc Stuff Dude to mares like to get Foxy Lady and Sugar Babe and stuff like that, you know, and that stuff was going on really good. But then he started in the mid '80s, started breeding him too closely to Double Tough, and that stuff didn't.
we did the same thing.
Right.
We made the same mistake. It
Right.
didn't work. But when we bred granddaughters back to Tiger,
Then that worked better.
it worked. I mean,
Yeah.
the only thing that worked with us was the TC Double Delight mare. That is
Okay.
the dam to the mare I have in this program that I have now.
Okay.
But we really figured out pretty quick that daughters and the son and daughter thing wasn't working, and that's how it is when you do line breeding.
Right.
Either works or it doesn't, and it
Right.
didn't work.
Well, see, when we bred Chippatuff, who was a grandson of Double Tough, to Double Sweet, it worked okay, but they were more halter. They weren't that fancy. And then when we bred Chip's son, Kiddo Tough, who was more refined, to Double Sweet, it worked like crazy. You know,
Yeah,
it was yeah. So
yeah, and I think that's why. I mean, I didn't even realize that everything I own and everything that my friend Abby owns, but two, and one I haven't yet bred. She's coming to us next year, back to us next year, but I only have one mare in my program that's not related to Double Tough.
right,
And that wasn't by design.
Oh.
That was just by what I like,
right, right.
you know. I mean, I didn't realize how much RY Sudden Equity goes back. He goes back
I'm gonna
more
look
than
at that
anything I own.
tonight when I'm home on the
No, I
couch.
was
I'm gonna go
shocked.
back and look at it. I kind of think
When
I know
looked at
how
that,
it is
I
a little
went
bit.
back and looked at it 3 times.
Right.
Am I seeing this right? And I'm like,
Right.
nope. He goes, and he's like, I guess I'm ahead of you, I guess, but he's one of the modern pleasure POAs today.
Yeah.
He's won some pleasure classes at Congress and been High Point at the futurities,
Right,
you know, in
right.
riding.
Well, he's a good product of the RYs too, the Gardeners. I give
Well,
them a
yeah,
shout
well,
out all the time. They're great people,
yeah,
and
you know,
they've been doing
but-
it a long time. They, you know, it's like anything in POAs. Sometimes you can be breeding good ones, but it takes a while to get recognition, and they finally got it now. But they've been breeding for a long time, and a lot of good ones. So here's a filly that's kind of out of place in the picture scroll here. This is Doc's Foxy Lady. She should have been earlier with the Dude ones, and I don't have any. I had a picture of Ione Reeks showing her at the international show when she won, but this is Jackie Nemers, not Jackie, the Doc's daughter Jackie, and not showing her, but just after they sold her. I remember watching her in the ring. I was little. That was one of my first sales. That was my first sale. 1983 was my first sale, and she sold for a lot of money. And you know, we always liked Dude, and this was a good filly. And then I watched her show with
She
Sarah.
never changed color that much.
She didn't change color that much, and she went in the POA Hall of Fame, and she was a good mare. She was a tough show mare in halter and performance. So now
She
here's
was a Western Pleasure fool.
where she was. Yeah, here's a double tough son. That was a gelding, Doc's Tough Joe, and the Joneses had him for a while. He was all around the country. He was gelded early, and he became, I think, a Supreme Champion. Here he shows he's a POA ROM champion, but I believe he got his time points.
I think he was our second choice in the 1982 sale.
Okay. Yeah.
Tiger
Doc's
was our
Tough-
first choice, and if we couldn't
I
get
think
him,
he had a
well,
full sister named Josie, Doc's Tough Josie, but
I
he.
think she was pretty tough too, if I
Yeah,
remember right.
yeah. So,
No pun
but I know
intended.
Jones won. Yeah, I knew that would come up sooner or later. Oh, you're lagging. I'm gonna take a drink. But this is Kate's Tough Rexy. We're looking at right now, and this is
One of our favorites.
Yeah, well, I like this mare a lot, and your family. So go ahead and tell some stories. Now, what we're looking at is, it says Garula. Again, we learned colors.
I'm not
She's
seeing it.
You will.
It's not.
But
It's not popped up yet.
It's
but
the catalog
Katie-
picture of when Wally Cates. Now Wally Cates was raised in the same town close to where I was. About
Oh, there she is.
there she is, and he became, he had series silver prints, but he bred to Double Tough a couple times, and one of them he never left the place. I don't think she didn't. Doc's Tough Magic. She was a black mare, I believe. But the next year was Tough Rexy, and tell us about her a little bit, Tracy.
We bought her from the Reeks. They had ridden her. Well, Sarah was aging out. I don't think Katie was that old. She wasn't a junior pony anymore, but she was like 5, maybe 6. And we were looking for a pony for my sister to ride because we ride our mares. At that time, we rode our mares. Our show mares had to double. So we bought this mare because she was a pleasure fool. And we bought her, and we brought her home, and Katie started riding her. Katie was, I think, in 9 to 12 at the time, maybe her first year, 13 to 18. And we bought the mare, and we went ahead and bred her to Tiger. And Katie continued to show her, and we were headed for a Supreme. That was the goal back then.
Right.
You could Supreme everything you rode. So the mare had never ran. Well, not unfortunately. Fortunately, that is probably one of the fastest ponies I've ever ridden because I got the opportunity to ride her a little bit in some adult classes down here in barrels and poles. The mare was fast.
Right.
And when we sold her, it kind of broke everybody's heart, but Katie was supposed to buy a pony in the sale that we didn't get bought that day, but Doc Jones outbid her. So that's Katie right there.
Right.
Turned the pole at the Congress.
Right.
Well,
this is the cover of the magazine that had the sales catalog, so you can imagine how many miles it has on it. So I apologize that it's beat up, but it kind of gives it a little cool look. But
yeah, it does.
Yeah, and there's other pictures I skipped.
Katie was definitely in 9 to 12 then.
Okay. I think they sold her because this comes full circle, but Kate's Tough Rexy, her next mount, Sarah's next mount was Doc's Foxy Lady. Right,
and it wasn't for very long that they sold her. I think the next year,
right?
Because Sarah was on her way out, aging out.
Right.
And anyway, we bought Katie, and Katie with a C and Katie with a K were a team for 2 or 3 years.
Okay.
And we bred her twice, and we bought her. She was in foaled Prisoner of War.
Okay.
And
that
she
makes
had a
sense.
foal that looked just like her, same color. And we sold him in the sale. Ruth Picoy bought him.
Okay.
And then we bred her to Tiger, and we got a leopard, again, the same color, which we now know is not chestnut. It's silver black.
Right.
But we all thought it was chestnut with a flaxen mane tail back then, and we weren't real wild about the colt, so we just didn't breed her again. And then we decided to sell her because Katie was moving on to some junior ponies. And we took her to the sale, and we sold her. And the Stanleys bought her, and they were very successful in speed events with her. Right. I think Corey rode her.
She was a good built mare. We're looking at a profile over here. I mean, she was a nice built mare.
She just didn't cross well with Tiger. She wasn't the greatest milker either. So
she was meant to be more of a show mare than a brood mare.
Yeah. So, and I remember we were running speed events, the Turkey Circuit, which is over Thanksgiving.
Right.
And she foaled 6 weeks later.
Oh, wow.
She wasn't due 6 weeks later. She was one of those mares that goes about 3 weeks early. And but we were running this mare, and she was winning.
And she was
She was a good mare. She was a fun mare to have.
Right.
And Katie cried. Oh God, Katie cried.
Oh no. But, well, Katie's watching tonight, so I hope they're be okay, Katie. I think she was. She mentioned something about. I don't know. Maybe she's not, but I can't see all the I can see Kay Dugard and Lee Rupplinger, but I can't see some comments if they don't go to the eCam live.
But I think this mare, had she been crossed differently.
Yeah, she's. I mean, for a '79 mare, she's got a body on her and a nice top line.
The same front end of the picture with me riding Tiger bareback.
Right.
She was a phenomenally built mare.
Right. Well, her bottom side would be Siri Rex. He was the 1970 Grand Champion.
And she was pretty headed.
Right. So she had some Siri in her. So Double Tough cross the Siri is a good cross.
But I think we just didn't cross her right.
Right. Well, you can't cross them all great. So, well, now we're on to another double. We're going to kind of hit some Double Tough daughters here. We kind of go by how the pictures are. And this is I'm Tough Too. And I don't know if you remember her. The Hesses, they lived in Dubuque, Iowa, the same town as the Nemmers. This is Heidi Hess. I remember her showing I'm Tough Too. They came up to some Minnesota shows. and she was an own daughter of Double Tough. She was kind of a light built mare, but she did really well in pleasure. And again, thanks to Heidi for Facebook is a wonderful tool for a historian because you can meet up with people that you knew from the past. So, you rearranging the house there, Tracy? Something just crashed.
I was getting some ice.
Oh wow, I'm drinking.
Sorry.
So everybody can see I'm drinking Diet Gold Peak tea. I don't know what Tracy's drinking, but okay. Now this is the futurity winner I alluded to earlier. So this is a collage when Phillips bred Linda Lovely. She was the daughter of MP Speculator, who's in the bottom left corner there. They bred Linda Lovely to the hottest stallion going in '81, which was Double Tough, and out came the American Dream. And Chris Woods showed her. He bought her, of course, and showed her, and she won the '82 Futurity. Gold Chips won the Colt class, and she won the Filly class, and that kind of set the tone of Double Tough and Gold Prince. And that was the very first Futurity. And here she is. Here's quite a few pictures of her. Very modern, long filly. She ended up going to the Steels. I haven't mentioned that yet, and unfortunately I don't have any pictures tonight, but when I talk about...
Her dam went there too, didn't she?
Yep, she went there too. And they ended up having kind of classy, I think, was out of her. But the Steels used quite a few Double Tough mares too. A lot of people didn't realize your family did, and Ken Steele. They used quite a few.
They bought some out from under us.
Yeah, he knew
we were
to
trying
buy.
to buy them at the same time.
Yep, breeding Paper Tiger to Double Tough mares. They had, did they have Doc's Double Talk, I think? And they had quite a few. Yeah. And
I think it was Tough Luck.
Tough Luck, yep. They had Tough Luck, yep. And then they had Pants Tough Date's mother, Doc's Double Date, right? Who went in the Hall of Fame, I think, yep. So, but I'm not going to talk too much about those POAs tonight because KSs they're the #1 breeder of all time of national champions. They'll have their own episode coming up quick, actually. So it'll be in a couple weeks, probably this summer sometime. So here's the picture. There's Doc Nemmer standing on the far right, holding the check for the select sire, and then that's Chris Woods showing the American Dream. Of course, that's in Des Moines at the fairgrounds. Okay, so then in '83, Double Tough had already passed away. But Scheidecker's bred from Wisconsin, their good little mare, TW's Miss Firefly, to Double Tough. And out come Doc's Miss Firefly. Now, Doc's not the breeder. They just borrowed the name. He gave him permission. But she won that's Mark Kozer. We mentioned Troy earlier. Troy and Corey Kozer showed in POAs, did well. And so she became the second select sire Futurity winner. So Double Tough had the first two fillies. And here's the Baron and her because they won. So a Tough Tiger son and a Double Tough daughter won the same day.
That was a very exciting day in Washington State, let me tell you.
So you weren't in Iowa, you were in Washington when that happened?
Yeah, we didn't go to our first sale until '84.
'84, okay. All right. So in '82, how did you weren't at the sale, but you had somebody bidding for you?
Our director at the time was Larry Van Hess from Idaho.
Okay.
And we asked him to bid on Tiger for us.
Okay. All right. That's cool.
So,
okay.
yeah.
All right. So now we're going to take a little break pretty quick. Our sponsor is you tonight, TCPOAs. So I hope people like Tracy because you're all over the show tonight, but that's great. But this is, we were talking about Doc's Double Sweet, and Doc, he liked the Reds, but he did breed to Gold Prince because he had the own daughter of Double Tough, and Double Tough was pretty ill, and then Dude was the full brother to Double Sweet, so he didn't really have anybody to cross her to. So he crossed her to Gold Prince, and out came Doc's Bold Prince. And this is Kelly King, Jerry King's daughter, and Doc's Bold Prince became a national champion and a supreme champion. And these pictures were taken from the cover. I believe Gary Hamilton took these pictures. And
he was very striking yellow horse.
Yeah, he was.
And I can't see it. Oh, there he is. Yeah.
And Doc didn't like Palominos. He didn't breed many Palominos because he didn't like. Yeah, he never did like Palominos. He liked red, and Double Tough was a red thrower. And but she just kind of let let color go. Double sweet was that way, recess, whatever you want to call it, I guess. But anyway, so that would be a grandson of Double Tough, and again from the great Doc's Double Sweet. Jan said she forgot about him, so. Okay, I want to plug a couple regional shows really quick. We have the one coming up, the Sunflower Showdown in Kansas. It's going to be in Lyons, Kansas, sponsored by the Kansas POAC. Going to be June 11th through the 13th. If you want to get some points and have some fun, the Kansas club always knows how to throw good shows, so they have great shows. They got a memorial show coming up in Kingfisher.
They've been working really hard on this show for 2 years.
Right, they have.
Got canceled last year.
Right, so the Sunflower Showdown. I know they have shirts ordered and everything. What's a regional without a shirt? So, and then I said I had some major technical problems tonight, so my Westworld and Rocky Mountain Regional flyer didn't make the cut tonight. It was supposed to be right after this, but just please, if you're going to be around Colorado, again, pick up some points. If you're headed east from the west and you're headed to Tulsa for the big national show, the Congress, you could swing by Colorado, Lamar, Colorado. It's the 4th of July weekend, and there's 2 shows there, the West World, and they always have great prizes and nice high points. And then, of course, the Rocky Mountain Regional. That's one of our popular regional shows. So check out those 2 regional shows this year. Oh, who's this? You're not seeing it, but there's a stallion peeking out of the bushes, and he's looking at a leopard baby. So I want to thank my main sponsor tonight and my Supreme Champion sponsor, which is TCPOAs, Tracy and Robert Keene from Florida, home of the TCPOAs, of course. And we've been talking tonight. Tracy grew up in POAs, her and her sister Katie, and Tracy continues to raise great POAs. She rode Supreme Doc's Tough Tiger, and then she had Speaker of the House, who became a Grand Champion Stallion, and she raised a lot of great speaker babies. She's had good success at the Futurity, and now she has TC Impulsive Weedo, an own son of DZ Weedo, the late great Appaloosa Stallion. That was a buckskin, beautiful stallion, and Pleasure Horse, of course, and then on the bottom, the Impulsive breeding. So he's
don't forget, there's some Double Tough back
there's some
there.
Double Tough in him too. So there's also Chip O'Leo we mentioned. So
yes.
This guy has got a purple pedigree, and if you got especially a color producing mare, I don't know if you're standing him to outside mares, Tracy.
We are.
Okay.
We are.
But
we're not doing any strip semen, but
if
we
you
can't provide the service.
Right. If you want to catch one of these TC babies, you might want to call Tracy for 2022 already, because she sells them when they pretty much they hit the ground. They're pretty much spoken for before they're dried off. Yeah. So, and there's Jake. That's his name, his barn name. But TC Impulsive Weedo. He's a beautiful stallion. I remember seeing pictures of him as a yearling, and I thought you had something good on your hands, which has come to be true. What year is he? Is he a 12?
He's 9 this year, so yeah.
Yeah,
he is.
9, 2012 model. Yeah, so beautiful stallion down in Florida. Here's a couple. He's already a 2-time Futurity champion sire.
And Congress champion.
He's a
more than 2. 3 or 4 times Congress champion sire.
Right, but he's had 2 selects, which a lot of stallions never even have one. You've owned 2 stallions in your lifetime, Doc's Tough Tiger and this guy, that both had 2 Futurity winners. Did Speaker of the House have a Futurity winner?
No, he did not.
But he had some good babies. He had some big body babies. But Jake's a little better to me. I know you're a sponsor, so I can't get too personal here. But he, I like Jake a little better. But he's a little more modern. But they're both good stallions.
A little bit more of an all-around.
A little more all-around, yep. He's bred for pleasure, but his babies, of course, if he's already had 2 Futurity winners, they'll halter too. So, all right. So again, I want to thank Tracy for being a guest, and don't go away unless you want to, Tracy. So, but thanks for being a sponsor tonight.
If you can put up with me interjecting, I'll sit here.
I need a camera so you can kind of raise your hand. I'll say yes. Just think if we got Jan and a couple more people on here. We need Jackie and Jan Rogers and all you. I
Oh
wouldn't get a
yeah,
word
all
in
of us.
edgewise. Yeah, I'd just be
I
sitting
think
here
that's going to
smiling.
happen at Congress, right?
Yeah, that's gonna. I might have to take some videos at Congress. I'm gonna go dark that night. My wife said today, "What's that mean?" And I said, "That's podcast speak. We're not gonna air that night. I'm a big shot now, you know." So, but anyway, yeah, the week of Congress we won't have a show, but just think all the material I'll get for shows for future shows. So,
Oh yeah.
because I'll be talking to all you guys. So I plan on spending a few days there, and then we're going up to Branson. We're making a whole week out of it, and then we're coming back to Pawhuska, Oklahoma, where the Pioneer Woman is, and
Yeah.
the Ben Jonson Museum. I've always wanted to go to the Ben Jonson Museum, and it's in that town. So we're gonna have a cool week, exciting week. But anyway, meeting and greeting, talking to POA people is always one of my funnest things to do. So okay, we're gonna move on in the Double Tough saga. So if you just joined us, we have Tracy Keene on the phone from Florida, and she's a historian like me, and she's a double tough expert. That was one of her favorite lines, and she's followed that line. So now we're into the kind of second generation here, and this is a grandson, and actually Tracy's family owned the stallion's mother, Foxy Acres Double Ditto, but Owen Ziegler bred that mare, a double tough daughter. She was an early double tough daughter, 75, but he bred her to Jet Deck bred Appaloosa stallion named Jet Bar 2, and out come the 84 Colt Tough Jet. And in 1985 in Ohio, in his own home state, he became the second yearling to win Grand Champion Stallion. And that's him right there. And that's the cover of the January POA magazine. And here he is with Chris Woods. Chris Woods is the man that showed him. Chris was a good halter shower. He showed, Doug Sarl said Chris Woods was the first man to show impressive. I don't know. I never backed that up, but if Doug said it, I would say it's probably true. So, but I know Chris had
Wasn't
a
he
great.
also an auctioneer for us?
He was, yep. That he brought in Doug pretty much. You know, him and Doug came in both from Ohio and did some Ohio sales, and then a lot of people forget this because Doug Sarl had such a great run as a legendary
Oh,
auctioneer for us. But
we
the
so
first
miss
two,
him.
yeah, we did. I sat next to him for hours on end talking about
Yes, you
pedigrees
did.
and him chanting. And I went to auctioneer school partly because of Doug. I'm an auctioneer. I'm not an active auctioneer, but I went in 2013 for 10 days in Missouri and got my auction license. But anyway, Chris was an auctioneer as well, and yeah, him and Doug did the 85 and 86 together in Indianapolis. The first two in Indianapolis, they co-chaired it, or cried it, and yep. So that's his, and then he showed East Acres Gold Bar, and of course he showed American Dream, but then he showed Tough Jet for Olin, and Olin's standing over on the right in this picture. So again, that's just a yearling there. There he is as an older horse when he was in Michigan. So he roamed out a little bit, but he kept a pretty nice profile on him. So okay, here's another stallion that, sometimes his double tough breeding gets overshadowed because he was an own son of Gold Prince, and he sure helped the Gold Prince line. But this is Tough Plotted, and that's Gene Carr, the guy that made him a household name. A lot of the great Santees, almost all the Santees that became really famous, are related to Tough Plotted. And Gene line bred Tough Plotted he would breed him to big horse mares, and then he would cross those. And so you would get Tough Plotted as the great grandpa 4 times. But what also you got was a whole bunch of, genetics from small Appaloosa and quarter mares that was tied in there.
He
And
was probably the most successful breeder at the line breeding thing.
yeah, and that's because his mentor, I don't know if you ever even met the man, but a guy he studied so faithfully was Hank Wieskamp. And, he even named a lot of his POAs the same names as Wieskamp. Even a generation like Skip Mama, Skip School Mom,
Yeah.
Skip Mama, Skip Marm. He copied the same names. Senator, stuff like that were names. And but anyway, and this stallion had Wieskamp in him through Gold Prince. Gold Prince is from Money Creek, and of course Money Creek had Prince's Fury, and that's from Wieskamp's breeding. So Prince Plotted, and the quarter mare was from Wieskamp. So, but yeah, so the double tough, and then he was a few spot, and Gene Carr is the person that coined the few spotted leopard. He did the research on that as a pretty young man in the 70s, and I know that had to be challenging for him to get people to believe in what he was talking about, So, but anyway, this is tough plotted as a pretty young stallion. He was born in 1980, and Leonard Lewis actually is the breeder. Leonard and Joan Lewis from Minnesota, but they sold the mare to the Mungers, and I know she might be watching tonight from South Dakota. And Larry Munger and Gene Carr owned this colt together. Gene bought half interest because he seen the pedigree, double tough and gold prints, and then the few spot capabilities, so he knew he'd be something special. I have a baby picture of Gene holding him. I think it's in Sioux Falls, but I didn't get it on here tonight. But here he is in 1986, winning Grand Champion Stallion, and he had a son there named Santee Twister. And I was at this show, and I felt Twister should have probably beat him because he was just cleaner. He was a yearling, but they put the age stallion ahead of him. And of course, he went on to he was the leading sire for years and years, tough plotted. He a lot of halter champions, grand champion stallion, gelding, and mare. He was the first one to do that. Zip and Gold, I mentioned last week, but he was actually the first one to do it with the same breeder. Gardner's was the breeder of all three of his, but Gene didn't breed for a daughter of tough plotted that won grand, because that Santee mare that won in '95, I'm kind of going off the rails here, but she was not bred by Gene. She just had the Santee name. But yep, he did a lot for Gold Prince and Double Tough. And okay, so now we're gonna go to. Here's a colt named Tough Tacos. He won the international show as a weanling at 6 weeks old in 1983 in Illinois, and this is his breeder, Marcy Kruger. And Marcy is Teresa Laus' sister, and Danielle Kruger, the three Kruger girls. They all showed POAs and all became great horsewomen. And Marcy bred her double tough mare, Tough Contender. That was bred by Max Nebergall to Max's stallion, Eastacre's Chippetuff. And we actually bought Chippetuff like 3 or 4 weeks before this colt won the international show. And so that was good fortune for us. But then she took him back to the Futurity and was second. And I just looked back then, Tracy, remember they used to put the judges' placings in.
Right.
And they're the points, and they'd go 10 was first, and then 9 was second, and they'd go on down. Well, he had 2 10s and a 3. The second judge gave him a 3, so that would have been like 8th place. Yeah, so that killed him.
Dumped myself.
Yeah, he got dumped. So yeah, the bad judge. But anyway, he ended up second. Yeah, right. So he ended up second in the Futurity, but he went on to be a good show gelding. He would have been one of the early double-bred double toughs. A grandson bred an own daughter.
He was real successful, if I remember, as a performance pony.
He was. I
think with Gina Hampton out of Pennsylvania.
I think so. I think the Stubblefields had him for a while, if I'm not mistaken, and then maybe Gina Hampton, yeah. But he was a big, stout POA. And, then his half-sister in '86, Poco Pixie, she won the Futurity with Marcy in 1986. So that was a double tough.
She was a Loud Leopard.
Loud Leopard,
There he is.
There he is. You got a lag there in Florida. You need a little better internet down there. No, I'm kidding.
I know.
At least I figured out Bluetooth, so I was hearing you, but nobody else was. So
I'm glad we got that figured out.
Right. So now here's Kiddo Tough, and he did a lot to spread the Tough name. So, and of course, my family bred him, and here's his firstborn son is the Crisco Kid, and that's my mom with him, and a Chippetuff son named Chipulator. He was out of speculation, but anyway, the Crisco Kid was double bred again, because Kiddo Tough was a great grandson of Double Tough, and he bred Doc's Double Sweet, and to get this leopard who became a world beater literally. So he's won 60 classes. I believe he's still alive. He's in 1989, but he hasn't been shown for years now. The Crisco Kid. So he's a Doc's Double Sweet son. Here's Doc's Rough and Tough. He's the same year as Kiddo Tough. Kiddo Tough kind of reminded me of Double Tough as far as he had 4 foals born in his first year. And two of them, like Double Tough, he had Fonzie, a good gelding that the Neblock showed and other people, and then Tough to Beat. Well, Kiddo had the Crisco Kid, and then almost a lookalike to Tough to Beat, and that's Rough and Tough. And of course, Dean Damon bought Rough and Tough. He's still alive in Iowa. Rough and Tough is, and he's had a great career as a sire. A two-time grand champion stallion is a yearling and a 2-year-old. Here's Tough to Beat again. See the comparison? Tracy, you can't see it right now, but I always felt like Rough and Tough and East Acres Tough to Beat, which they are related. You know, there's a couple stallions in between them, but they were colored and even built a lot alike.
Oh, they're colored very much alike.
Very much alike. Yeah. And my dad always said that. He said, breeding will show up good or bad. You know, he said, I don't care if it's in there. If Sunny D-Bar's in there, one of these days you're going to walk out and see a 4 white sock, blaze face, sorrel. You know what I mean? And just like Double Tough, he said, you're going to see, you know, a chestnut with a blanket and, you know, Rough and Tough. That when he was born, my dad said, there's Tough to Beat. And it's pretty true. So, okay, here's some more pictures that probably should have been up. This is Doc Smith's Firefly. And I don't know why these are way back here, but QT McHugh. Yeah, just some more. I think we got some doubles. So, anyway, I was gonna start the show tonight, Tracy, by saying, tonight's show is about a stallion who, and it sounds like I'm reading this, but I'm really not. But he's the sire of Tequila Sheila, BRK Little Pumpkin. Who's some more? Pinanux, Pizzazz, Anniversary Walt, and then just say, you guys all remember them, right? Well, my point is, he only had 98 foals, and a lot of them became well known. You know, like those didn't. You know, we don't know who they are. 7M Duke, and now I got some statistics. I know you'll like this, Tracy, but as a color producer, you know, now this is just off of registered foals. Of course, some of his solids back then weren't registered. They were either, you know, they just didn't, they left the breed. But of his registered foals, he was an 86% color producer. And a lot of the mares he bred were solid. And you realize that 11 of his foals were out of non-registered mares.
Didn't know that.
Yeah, I was telling
That's really
Jeremy
phenomenal.
that today, and he said, man, old times, you know, how times have changed. Only 15 of his 98 foals didn't carry tough or double or some form